Looks like the House Speaker is playing it a little too cute. Good Monday evening. We start our second full week of State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. Let's get into it for this evening. Well, let me tell you, our guest for this evening is a guy you really ought to pay attention to. He has been trying to dig this state out of its sand, uphill both ways in 4 feet of snow from the Rhode Island Freedom and Prosperity Group. It is Mike Stenhouse, former Major League pitcher. He's got a lot of fastballs to throw, but we seem to have an umpire that knows that he's thrown some strikes on the sales tax, on getting rid of the sales tax, and a whole bunch of other things that you ought to be thinking about. So that comes up a little bit later on. Let's find out what we have on our plan here. This is an awful story, right? And what's worse is the media's rush. We'll talk about the Navy Yard shooting. The Syrian deal really kind of came together as we headed into the weekend. John McCain and the president kind of battling rhetorically over that. Gordon Fox, the Speaker of the House, was a little too cute on Newsmakers with Tim White. I proffered some of that for you on Friday afternoon. I got a little bit more video for you, and he's missing a concept here, conveniently. He's no dummy. I'll tell you what the concept is. And the final is speaks for itself. Please stop. All right, let's get serious. We all woke up this morning to this news, dominating the news cycle. The latest on the Washington Navy Yard. What?
Police, SWAT teams, and FBI agents swarm into southeast D.C. into the Navy Yard. Just after 8 o'clock this morning, shots could be heard at the Naval Sea Systems Command Headquarters Building 197 on the 3rd or 4th floor.
We have one shooter that we believed involved in this that is deceased. We also have other casualties. I will not give a confirmed number this time. The big concern for us right now is that we potentially have 2 other shooters that we have not located at this point.
I mean, people were pushing, people were shoving, people were falling down. After we came outside, people were climbing the wall, trying to get out over the wall to get out of the spaces. It was just crazy.
Emergency responders on the scene issued a shelter in place for the some 3,000 personnel working in and around that building. Thousands more live and work in nearby buildings. As a precaution, flights in and out of D.C.'s Reagan National Airport were restricted. The Washington Navy Yard is the Navy's oldest shore establishment, where they engineer, build, buy, and maintain ships, submarines, and combat systems for the country.
We will do everything in our power to make sure whoever carried out this cowardly act is held responsible.
So we don't know, right? Even at this time of the evening, we really don't know. Over the next couple of days and a couple of news cycles, we may. But it was interesting. I'm on the radio from noon to 3 on WPRI, right? And I'm following the story, and we're following the tweets, and we're putting up special network coverage. And once again, the media, with an itch to scratch to be first, begins to name the deceased suspected suspect. And it's not 15, 20 minutes later that major networks in this country are retracting the name. Now, I don't know who the person is with the real name, but listen, a message to the media. Look, I know it's important for business to be first, and I know there's journalistic integrity in the challenge to be first. But you know what? People are not going to be moved by you naming a name. You don't win an audience by being first on a tidbit. You win an audience by being first on a major story. And doing that time and time and time again. Discipline, my brethren in the media, please, discipline. Syria, developments into the weekend, and Sunday, the show's kind of wrapped it all up.
Republican Senator John McCain is calling it a loser.
If it works, we're going to see the Russians facilitating the departure of chemical weapons, while plane load after plane load of Russian aircraft coming into Damascus were full of weapons and devices to kill Syrians.
President Obama's position has softened significantly in the last few weeks. At the beginning of this month, a strike in Syria seemed certain, but now he says the mere threat of U.S. force brought Assad to the negotiating table. So the president is now defending his response to Assad's chemical weapons use.
This is not the Cold War. This is not a contest between the United States and Russia. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if Russia wants to have some influence in Syria post-Assad, that doesn't hurt our interests.
President Obama also revealed for the first time in that interview that he has exchanged letters with Iran's new president, Hassan Rouhani. And that's important because his Secretary of State, John Kerry, was in Israel today and said Iran and North Korea are paying attention to what we do in Syria, so we cannot have, quote, hollow words in the conduct of international affairs.
And listen, the president, in a way, is right. The Cold War is over, but the war for position of leadership is not. And John McCain makes an interesting point about what the Russians are going to do, regardless of chemical weapons, and how they're going to kind of wink at Assad and reload with conventional weapons. Here's the point the president hasn't been really making here, as we see the headlines from the papers today and through the weekend on this conflict. You know what? We're not that concerned with a civil war in Syria. The president probably needs to say it. He's not that concerned. Here's the thing, he'll probably cancel the resolution authorizing a military strike if this deal doesn't come together. And my guess is, if this deal doesn't come together, he's not going to need congressional approval, if you know what I mean. And on a much lighter note, on a much more local but not so lighter note, Gordon Fox, the Speaker of the House, appears on Newsmakers and just keeps tripping over himself on the 38 Studios deal. Here's the first little tidbit I want to play for you.
I knew Curt Schilling was interested in coming to Rhode Island. I knew Curt Schilling, you're hearing it live, folks, that was interested in $75 million, but I took it as we'll create programs, let the people who are supposed to be vested with the intelligence, articulation, getting the details done, to see if that man was, a company was eligible for $1 or for nothing.
I'm sorry, did you say you knew that he was interested in $75 million?
What an amount was. I knew he was interested in here and coming getting a loan guarantee.
Did you ask him at that meeting? All right, how much we talking about here, Curt?
No, because the first meeting that Curt Schilling had with me was, I'm interested in looking at Rhode Island, what tools are available? I don't know. In that first meeting where it was another member of the EDC was there, it was like, introduce him to what programs do you have? That was it. And then it was like, go and talk amongst yourselves.
Does anybody believe that? Well, what was he, shopping at the Providence Place Mall? Hi, do you have anything in I don't know, the neighborhood of $75 million to... Oh, come on, Gordon. You're right in the middle of it with your buddy and tax broker, Mr. Corso. It's just, please. And then he wants to redefine or narrow the actual focus of what an oversight committee ought to do. Good questions from the panel, Tim, Ted, and Arlene on the program, saying, well, you know, how come this oversight committee isn't subpoena anybody? And how come you're just fumbling through paperwork? And aren't you the guy that has to authorize subpoenas? And by the way, the guy that they want to talk to is you. Here's what he had to say.
Well, is it really going to lead to anything? And so at this point, and again, I'm not ruling anything out, neither is the chairman. Let the oversight process take its course. Let the civil suit run its course. Let other investigations run its course. Rather than we come in there, we're going to satisfy someone's perception, and we know all that leads to, well, they came and testified, but they refuse to testify, so we want to compel them. We want contempt orders. You'll get caught up more in that process than actually finding out what oversight's supposed to be about. Learn from what happened so you don't repeat the mistake, and try to come up with different policies and practices to make for a healthier government. Right. That's what an oversight committee does.
You know, it reminds me of the old church lady bit. Remember that? Isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? Oversight should do those things. Here's the other thing that oversight does, Mr. Speaker. It finds out who the bad guys are. Okay? We need to find out who the bad guys are. We need to find out how in heaven's name the General Assembly had a blind vote, voted for the largest financial instrument in recent history, and didn't know what they were voting for. There are bad guys in this scenario. And subpoenas will help us find them. Recuse yourself, get out of the way so we can subpoena you. And then there's Sunday night television. Please, can we stop this? As the parent of an 18-year-old young woman, can I ask, what is constructive about this? Why do we do this? From the goofy show open to the 5 finalists who have to answer the question and who trip over themselves and look like all dumb blondes, even though not all of them are blonde, can we please stop? Where are the feminists in this country to stand up against this outdated embarrassment? I'll probably get some email or voicemail on that, I know. But when we come back, a guy who's trying to right-size the ship with a lot of great ideas, Mike Stenhouse, sales tax and all that. Stay with us. The thing I like about Mike Stenhouse is that he just keeps banging away and banging away. We had a hearing last week at the State House. I don't know how he's going to characterize it. I know how I'd characterize it. Here's a headline talking about the state sales tax discussion. All the General Assembly could do in the last session is agree that they ought to talk about it. I don't know. This is the old phrase, and you're an old sports guy, major league pitcher, a win is a win sometimes, but that's not a win, is it?
Well, it's a walk. We got a base on balls and to lead off the inning. We have a long way to go. But yeah, we sat there.
Two dumb jocks with sports analogies. We could lose this audience, but okay, it's a base on balls.
Yep.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
But what does that get you with a double play behind it? I don't know. What do you think? They had a discussion. They're having a discussion. You have laid out the numbers. You have made the clarion call. You are on the team of we need the big idea. Talk to me.
I think your show, name of your show says it all. It's a state of mind. We have to change our state of mind up there. They're so stuck on the status quo. They're so stuck on the budget neutrality, not shaking, the ship. Our job is to get them to think outside the box. That there are new possibilities if we don't restrict ourselves by saying that this failed budget is what we have to adhere to. So sales tax is just one of the ideas. It's our biggest idea. But we'll never get this or any major reform through unless we can change our state of mind up there, and that's the larger challenge we have.
Yeah, so how are we going to do it?
Well, I have to say I was a little bit encouraged by some of the comments. What they did do in the meeting was they went around to all the commission members, and they each talked about why they were there, what some of the things they're hoping to get done.
Explain to everybody, the commission members, so as you're trying to get a big change through in the last General Assembly session, and there was a little bit of argument about reducing or eliminating the state sales tax as an economic strategy. The best you could get was, hey, we'll put a commission together. So the commission is doing what? What's their charge?
Charge is to study the feasibility from a, do we need this? Is this the right reform? And how do we pay for it? Kind of answer those questions. If we do want to do it, if we do want to achieve all these great benefits like 25,000 jobs and all that, how do we pay for it? So the commission is kind of laying it out. And they've got a good panel of experts there. They've got Rosemary Beth Galooly from the State Department of Revenue who will help with some of the numbers, and they've got, RIPEC there, and they've got legislators there, and they got, Providence Chamber of Commerce, Rhode Island hospitality groups whose members would be helped by this. And then witnesses like us will try to be the straw man.
Does anybody dispute your numbers? Tell the people in simple form. I didn't even want a graph from you. Tell the people in simple numbers. If you eliminate the sales tax, it's worth what? $800 million on the budget, something like that?
Eliminating it will lose close to $900 million in revenue.
Okay.
But you get 2/3 of that back from the increased economic activity in the form of other taxes and fees, to put it simply.
And you think you've got enough proof in those numbers to be able to swear to God that's how it's going to come out?
We feel it. Now, we have to prove that to the commission. In the end, Dan, it boils down to, is a couple of $100 million of budget reduction worth 20 to 25,000 jobs? Is that a state of mind we can live with?
And the jobs come because?
With lower sales tax, modeling tools, it's our proven, it's not our tool, but it's a tool we purchased. It's been used in many states, shows that people will flow over the border, will shop more. With that increased shopping, small shops, businesses will either start, big businesses will either start or expand. More people will be hired, more income taxes will be paying, more people will be buying gasoline, lottery tickets, all those other things, buying cars, paying other taxes and fees, licenses and registrations.
Now, all of that outcome from those 25,000 jobs, is that what gives you the 2/3 toward the loss of the $900 million?
No, that just creates the income tax, which is about half of that 2/3. The other third is increased fees from the increased economic activity. With more people in the state buying stuff, gasoline, lottery taxes.
So be clear,
Okay.
although, is there a way to eliminate the sales tax and break even?
Not by our calculations.
We're going to be short in the general fund a couple $100 million.
Correct.
And of course, a couple of years down the line, we're going to be short another $100 million because of casino competition.
Right.
When we come back, we'll ask Mike, then how in the heck can a state run on a few $100 million short of what we have right now while we run deficits? Stay with us. So while Rome is burning and we're looking for the big idea, you know, Mike Stenhouse and his team have been coming up with all sorts of numbers, and they believe an elimination of the state sales tax, while it is a $900 blow to the budget, would recoup at least 2/3 of that. And so you're frank about a couple $300 million short in operating, and that's not chump change. What to do about that? Just suck it up and let osmosis take over? How do you cure all the fear out there?
Well, it's risky, but we think we're in a situation where we need risk. And let me explain what we're trying to do on a larger issue. We're trying to grow the economic pie. The only way we can possibly pay for all the commitments, the debt, promises to public employees, the budget shortfalls, the only way our state can ever pay for that is to have a larger tax base. We have to stop people, businesses from leaving the state.
Well, is it your projection that down the line, although we might have a couple $300 million shortfall now, that down the line the reputation of the state and the commerce that comes to the state and the retail pace of the state with zero sales tax will even that out and actually create surpluses? Do you have data that shows that?
No. What will make up the rest is other tax reforms. Sales tax is just the first step. Let me tell everybody right now. It'll be just the first thing we're talking about. It's the biggest thing. And it's the biggest for jobs, it's the biggest job creating thing.
Does tax reform mean cutting taxes?
Yes. So we can grow the economic
But here's the thing. Listen, if I were the governor and you came in and said, listen, here's how the numbers work, I would throw some caution to the wind. Not because I was financially irresponsible, but because we need a change agency. We need something to be able to sell. We need to be able to tell the world, come see us. And it's not just about finding a specific business to start up with 18 employees or 800. We need commerce. So I would do that. But I see where you're having difficulty, because if you can't tell them why having a shortfall is not the end of the world, then no one's going to get off their comfort zone. No one's going to get off their fear chair.
The term we use is a death spiral. We have literally a decreasing tax base paying an ever-increasing budget. How long is that sustainable for? We know that we can't keep going that way.
But they're going to say, you know who they are, they say your idea continues to decrease the tax base. And you say no because...
We're bringing more people into the state. We're bringing people with incomes into the state. More people will be getting paychecks instead of welfare checks, which increases the tax base. More businesses will be formed. For instance, we show a $150 million windfall to cities and towns. We're talking about getting monies to our cities and towns. With all these new businesses starting up and expanding, the commercial property tax receipts will go up.
Okay, so...
That's growing the tax base.
So let me ask it again. If you're short a couple $300 million from the sales tax revenue from other sources, do you ever see all of the growth picture evening out that hurt?
Yes, not just from the sales tax, but all the other reforms we need to do, yes.
And you've shown those numbers to the General Assembly, or you're still working on them?
I don't know that we could ever make, it's a theory. I don't know that you could show those numbers. When you have increased population, you have X number of more percent people, X number of more businesses.
But with the worrisome disposition...
I don't have a tool to make that projection.
So if I were the governor, in 30 seconds or less, tell me why I should fly with the theory.
Okay, because other states are doing it. That's why. All we got to do is look outside our border. See, we tend to look at only in Rhode Island. Other states are dramatically cutting taxes, actually real cuts to their budgets, and that's where the people are going, to those low-tax states. It's already out there.
All right. You can, the Rhode Island
Center
for Freedom and Prosperity.
Got it.
Find them online and read these reports, because I'm telling you, you need to be informed. Good work, Michael. Thank you very much. Good luck. Some reaction from Friday's show on Your State of Mind next. Visit here would cause some reaction, and so this edition of Your State of Mind. How about an email? Ted from Chepachet. He says he and Marianne were classmates at Classical over 50 years ago. She was and is my favorite liberal, and I believe I am one of her favorite conservatives from the North Country hinterlands. Well, isn't that special, Ted? That's great. Sheets in Cranston. Have a reunion. But Jan from Smithfield, not so much.
Next time Marianne appears on your show, maybe I'll put it on mute because she's so revolting. And as far as dual citizenships for Italians, maybe she should have permanent citizenship in Italy because we don't need her here. She was the big B word, and nobody misses her.
My guess is that Marianne is watching tonight and thoroughly enjoyed that. There's a perversity about those of us who are pundits, and you have to have some thick skin as well. And we do, and that's why we encourage your feedback. You can contact us on the email and the voicemail and the social media. Call us at 228-1886. That's 228-1886, and say what you have to say. And Nick Blair, our producer extraordinaire, laughs like heck or cries, depending, and then he, and of course, State of Mind at myRITV.com is the email. Keep it coming. We appreciate the feedback as always, because frankly, I really do believe that this is a relationship. As we launch this project, it's a relationship, and your state of mind is as important as mine. Thanks for joining My State of Mind. I'm Dan Yorke. See you tomorrow at 7:30.